know he's not there, then that lessens the time you have to find him and actually scout him. Because then he's going to have a Marine out, they're going to have Zerglings out, they're going to have a or Stalker out, whatever the case is. It just lessens the time you have to scout. So you can see I'm going way too deep in here. I'm getting to the minerals, and there's obviously, if I don't see a command center, he's obviously not there. So I scouted too deep into 2 bases already. So I obviously know where he spawns. I'm continuing up with my macro. But now, I'm finally going to be hitting his base. Let's see what time I'm getting to his base at. I'm still on my way. And I'll pause it in a second. Alright. Alright, I'm paused at 402. So I set my probe out at 142. And I get to his base at 402. That's 18 seconds. Brings me to 18. 2 minutes and 20 seconds?
20 seconds.
I believe.
Yep.
So it took me 2 minutes and 20 seconds to basically make a lap around the entire map. Because in this case, I actually didn't scout him until the very last position possible. So in the back of my mind, now I'm going to be thinking, okay, 2 minutes, 20 seconds, 220. That's with him taking a detour, being lazy, going too far into the other idle bases that obviously don't have him. So I could probably even shave a couple seconds off if I were to perfect my scouting pattern in a game. And that's something that you probably should do in case you want to get to your opponent's base a lot faster, and therefore you have a lot more things to look at. And ultimately, you also don't want your probe to die, because losing your probe, that's basically, again, a supplied as a worker that can increase your income, and income, of course, is exponential. Everything you do with that extra income adds up over time. Sure, he's only gathering like 5 minerals per trip, 8 I think in Brood War, but it all adds up. So here what we're getting to is all we see is a wall off. Now, what do you think about this right now, Jshore? What are you getting from this probe scout?
Hold on, let me check your vision. So far, all you've seen is he has 2 Marines out,
okay,
and the wall. You didn't scout his expansion, because you didn't look down there, so if I saw those Marines personally, I would think he's Terran, he's probably Marine cheesing me like every other Terran on the ladder does. And since he's already got a wall up, your scout was too late to get in, you don't really have much information. He has no add-ons, so you know he's not teching that. So, I mean, he could be fast expanding at his base, for all you know, so at this point you just don't really know anything.
Right. I know I see that he doesn't have add-ons. I see a barracks. I see 2 Marines. Other than that, I really don't know too much at all. So this, I would say, is a pretty bad scouting pattern for what I did. So we already know that, okay, on this map, this 4-player map, a 13 supply scout after my gateway, if in the event that I actually do scout him last, I have to watch out for this kind of wall off. That's very possible, which will negate any information whatsoever. And that's obviously bad because I don't know, like you said, it could be Banshees. I need to get a robotics out. It could be Marine Rush with SCV on. I didn't even see that expansion. I didn't know. So obviously this is something that needs to be adjusted over time. So I would like to take a look real quick. I'm actually going to go back to 142. If you would kindly go back to 142 with me, approximately. We'll let it run up.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to it. It's skipping a lot.
Yeah, it's going from like 1 to 2. We'll go to 1 and then we'll fast
forward
it and pause it. Alright. Alright, I'm at
on there.
I'm at 146. We'll leave it there, it's fine. Close enough. Alright, so now right now, while pause, I'm gonna look at the income tab. As a Protoss player, at 146, right when I'm sending my probe out to scout, I'm sitting at 12 harvesters. Do you see that, Jshore? My Terran opponent's
already had that open.
Yep, it's only sitting at 11. So I'm already up by 1 worker. So I'm technically, in a sense, like in a mathematical sense, you could say, oh, well, so I'm not really losing much if I'm sending a worker out, and he's keeping all his workers to mine. Not necessarily the case in a game like StarCraft, particularly because of something like mules. It's not like each worker, you can't really compare workers in the same sense. Like 40 to 30, you can't really just say he's up by 10 workers, because the amount that he actually is getting is, again, exponential in the sense that what is he mining, is it one of those harvesters include a mule, etc., etc., etc. So here we're going to be looking at, quite simply, we're going to be looking at income from his trip from 142 if you're there, to 402. I'm going to unpause it in 3, 2, 1, and go. I'm going to be looking at the income tab. I'm going to be seeing if there's any trends, if there's any patterns between my income and his during this time. So right now, I'm pretty much in the lead. Would you agree?
Yeah. Seems to be staying up there.
So that's with me scouting.
Of course.
Yep. Go ahead.
I mean, you're a harvester up, so you both have a harvester off minerals at the moment.
Okay.
He's not scouting, so pretty even.
Right. He's building, and that's something to take into account too, with his LCV needed to construct the building. So it's pretty even. So I'm technically not losing too much. I'm switching off to my gas, and I'm actually falling behind in terms of minerals right now. Even though I have more harvesters.
I wanted to pause here and say something really quick. With your scout that took 2 minutes and 20 seconds to get there, his wall is finished at like 255, I think.
255.
So to get into his wall, you'd have to scout at the 35-second mark, which we know is hilariously impractical.
35 seconds.
Because, yeah.
What supply?
So, I mean, you'd be losing.
I'd be like, what, 6, 7 supply? Or so.
Yeah. So, we know that you're not going to be able to get into his wall even if you scouted at 9.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wouldn't, in a situation like this, I wouldn't necessarily scout at 9 instead of 13.
Right. Is that to take into consideration that I would be scouting him, say, the first position possible rather than the last position possible?
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to do the first position, you would have still gotten there in time, even at 13.
I would have gotten there in time. Okay, fair enough.
For the wall.
Yeah. Alright, so there you have it. He's doing a really quick wall off. Now, what if, Jshore, what if we really wanted to see if he was going... What if a Terran was going to go for some kind of cloak Banshee rush, and he really didn't want us to scout his gases, and he was going to set up a wall like this? What would you recommend in terms of scouting something like this?
Well, if it was a tournament and you knew they were a cheeser and you knew that they were going to do this, you could send out 2 probes. But in a ladder game, the risk is not worth possibly scouting Banshee, since there are other signs you can look for, such as no add-on, no expansion, stuff like that.
Alright, so it's not worth the reward, say it's not worth the risk, for sending out 2 probes in a ladder game for this.
No.
Okay, I would probably agree with that. I would say that's the same. I mean, I probably don't... You get that weird feeling where, you know, it's early in the game, you really want... It's a race, you want to get as much income as you can to start building as much as you can. And you feel kind of awkward when you have to be forced to scout. You have to pull off minerals, and it's kind of a chore. You don't want to do it. Alright, I'm going to unpause. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
In 3, 2, 1, go. So again, we're going to be looking at... Still going to be looking at income. Doesn't matter any build orders right now. Just looking to see where we are. Yeah, I'm still falling behind in those minerals. Especially, I don't know if it's mules, or I'm just looking at my vision right now. I'm definitely up into harvesters. I'm doing chrono boosts. Entirely interesting concept altogether. With chrono boost, I'm able to catch up for what I lost. So would you say that chrono boost is helpful for Protoss in the early game from losing that economy for scouting?
I'd say it almost, like, if... I wouldn't say it makes up for the scout that you lost. I'd say it more just helps you keep even with the fact that Terran has mules. If he didn't scout, he would definitely be in the lead right now. He's still in the lead as it is, particularly because he isn't mining gas.
Right.
So.
Okay. I'm paused up at 405 right now. I'm still looking at the income. Right now we're seeing Terran sitting at 800 minerals and 0 gas. I'm sitting at 680 approximately. I was going from 600 to approximately 680. Dipping down a little bit, of course, in terms of when my probes returned to the trip to get the mineral patch, and 112 gas. I have 3 guys and 1 gas right now. In this strategy, I'm up by 3 harvesters through non-stop production of my workers currently, and approximately we could say that I haven't been keeping up with Terran. I would imagine that he's been producing on a constant basis if he's a master, anyways. So we could see like a three worker discrepancy between my base and his base through the use of Chrono Boost. Now, would you say that based on what you see on my screen, on my vision right now at approximately 402, would you say that scouting at 13 in terms of risk reward was worth it based on what I've seen?
You definitely wouldn't want to scout any earlier. I'm not sure how late you get away with it, because the signs of Banshees, I don't know, I'd say by 5-ish you would know if he was going Banshees or expansion or not. So you might even be able to get away with delaying it. But that also brings in the fact, what if he's 2 racks rushing?
Right. There's definitely a lot of strategies out there we gotta watch out for in terms of that. So you're saying, I'm not too sure about the delaying. Maybe you could go into with delaying your scout a little bit, but I think that would kind of hurt you in the long run if you were fighting a player who's going to go for some one-base play or rush around raxing you or anything like that. So I mean, I don't know exactly. I didn't see this expansion. I'm kind of getting that weird feeling like, okay, I'm not too sure. And a lot of players will usually rely on their gut, like you said. If you know the player's a cheeser, or if you've played this player before, you've seen his replays, or if it's just a ladder game, sometimes you just take a chance. StarCraft is a lot like poker. I happen to be poker actually happens to be one of my favorite things to do, one of my favorite games to play, and it's very mathematical. So a lot of it's going to be. I know some players call it stories. If you could believe the opponent's like story, if you understand his mindset in terms of the decisions he makes, then you can go along with it. It's like looking at your opponent now, saying, okay, my scout didn't see much at all. What do I think you're going to be doing based on the number of Marines I see out, based on the wall-off that you currently have, and depending on the map, the distance, the spawn positions, all of this is going through your head in an instant. Now, usually, to become safe players in StarCraft, you want to minimize that decision making in your head. The less of a guess you have to make, the more certain you are, then the more safe you are. Obviously, if you can pinpoint, okay, I know exactly he's going this, the safer you are in the sense that you don't have to worry about quick Banshees. But that's not necessarily, as we're going to find out, that's not necessarily always the best strategy. Because again, it's going to come back to what you have to sacrifice for gaining such safety. For example, as Jshore was saying, if I were to send something out in the first 30, 45 seconds, sure, I would know what he's doing, but what would I be sacrificing during that time? Right, Jshore?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, let me load up second replay. In this game, too, I would say that ideally, based on what you were saying, is if you had to sacrifice, you wouldn't want to go too much later, again, like we were saying, because of the 2 racks, or any type of one-base play, you would be in danger. And you wouldn't want to go too early, as we were saying, 6 or 7 supply. So we're looking at approximately 6-7 supply to a 13 supply gap interval. What would you recommend doing in that situation on that map versus a Terran player?
From the vision I saw for you, when your scout died, you had no knowledge of his expansion, so the first thing I would do is re-scout with a Zealot, a Stalker, another Probe if they were going to take a while to get out, as soon as possible, get to a tower or something, because just from my history of playing games, the most common thing is some sort of cheese. The main thing on your side there is, I guess if you're paying enough attention to realize it, that he hadn't scouted you yet either, so he was still in the dark as to where you were. And I'm loading this replay, but...
Okay, you're on cast 2?
Yeah, it's loading.
Great.
I'm downloading the map, because
okay.
I don't have any maps.
That's fine. Perfect. Alright. So in this case, while you're loading, in this case we're going to be looking at a common map, Shattered Temple. It's been around for a while. I'm sure it's going to be around for even longer, because it used to be Lost Temple, one of those classics. So I don't think they're going to have much desire